Hey everybody, it's April with part 1 of 2 on label reading, and this is another important topic. There's a reason we haven't covered this yet, and that is because when you start eating really clean through detox and eating low glycemic impact, and when we go grain-free and dairy-free, ultimately, what are you even looking at that has a label or that's a label that you really need to look at? Up until now, just making sure that it's, let's say some of your foods are organic or your meats are organic would be important, or looking at salmon to make sure that it's wild and Alaskan, caught instead of farm raised. Those would be the most important things. So my first tip to you is eat as much food as you can that doesn't require a label, or that has a label that it really doesn't matter because you've already deemed that food is sort of TLS friendly for eating clean. So that's number one. Number two is that, every nutrition label is basically set up the same. And so you can look at that and the ingredient list. And that's what I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on. If we were in Australia, you'd notice that their labels already contain the glycemic index and load of foods. So we're not there yet in the United States, but from what we're looking at in terms of fat burning and being able to also eat clean for our health, there are a lot of things that you should really pay attention to that are on the label. So let's talk first about calories and serving size, because these are both really important. We already know that a calorie is not a calorie. So really, does it matter if something, if you look at nuts or you look at salmon or you look at avocado or guacamole, obviously those are going to be much higher calorie. They're going to be much higher fat. We're not really worried about that per se. But if you picked up a piece of cheesecake and realized it was 1,400 calories, you may think twice about having to go down that road, right? So that's to where, calories can be important. But we also know that you could eat a low calorie, 60 calorie Dannon yogurt or 100 calorie pack. And we already know that those are not going to be conducive to losing weight or to keeping your blood sugar stable, cholesterol, etc. So that's for calories. For serving sizes, it's funny because a lot of this really has to do with marketing. Now, I always suggest that just for 1 week, when you're doing labels, you're paying attention maybe to serving size. Just for 1 week, put some, tablespoons or a half a cup or a cup out on your counter so you kind of can eyeball in the future what that really looks like. I think that it's when you start to eat some nuts or you start to, eat more, peanut butter or salad dressings or things that maybe you're not making homemade, that just having the ability to eyeball something like that in terms of the serving size is important. But understand that from a marketing standpoint, there's a lot of companies that can completely change what they can say, technically, according to FDA definitions, on the front of a package just by changing their serving size. So here's a great example. I was in Costco and I see 2 racks of sandwich wraps. And I was looking for my class to see if I could find something that was low carbohydrate from the way we're talking about, like low glycemic impact fully, that had some decent ingredients for that time, that, when people wanted to add back grains, that they may have some options. So here's the funny part. So one of them, I think, was touting, that they were higher in protein. The other one was touting that they were low carbohydrate. Well, guess what the difference was? They were exactly the same wrap. The only difference was the one that was quote unquote low carb was actually serving size half a wrap. Who would have even bothered to look at that? Who would think that the serving size of a sandwich wrap would actually be a half a wrap, right? So that's where you have to kind of just be, on the lookout to make sure. Now, I'm going to go through net carbohydrates and a bunch of other things in the next video, but right now I'm going to give you a quick tip on the rule of fives and on the ingredient list. So number 1, on the rule of fives, this is really a loose generalization, but we're talking about, salad dressings or, bars or, things like that. When you're just trying to have some kind of a benchmark, we do the rule of fives, meaning, if it's something that you're trying to watch out to make sure you're not exceeding too much of, like fat, let's say, for instance, or sugar, and you're looking for, let's say, a salad dressing, if it's under 5 grams for either one of those ingredients, well, that might be something you could look into further. But if it's something like fiber, which we already know is going to lower the glycemic impact of a food, you're looking for over 5. So that's just a really quick tip on the rule of fives. It doesn't mean it's the full picture. And when we talk about net carbohydrates, that will sort of come into play. Last, you're going to want to look at the ingredient list. So I saw a, Campbell's soup once, and it was like a chicken noodle soup. And just for ha-has, I took a look at the label, and I promised you there were about 27 ingredients in it. And I don't know about you, but when I make chicken soup, there's about 5 ingredients, and they're all real food. So again, the rule of fives, if there's more than 5 ingredients, you have to look a little deeper, because more than likely, there's chemicals, there's processed ingredients, there's nitrates, nitrites, or other undesirable, new to nature type molecules that your body is not even going to need, know how to process, much less you shouldn't be introducing to your body at all. And, we're going to also be looking at things like trans fats and, key words that are in the ingredient list that are, just something that you want to sort of be aware of. So in the next video, I'll talk about protein, fat, carbohydrates, and net carbs so you know exactly how to be able to look, at those labels and what you should be looking for.